Welcome back to video 3 of our snake tutorial on how to make snake in Unreal Engine, or at least a version of it, and we're calling it snack. So in this video we're going to change the camera so we can go to a bird's eye view. We'll add, what else are we going to add? Let me check my notes. What else are we adding? We got blow up snake at the end of the game, and also if we hit a wall. So that's about it. That's all that's left. We could do menus, but I'm not going to do a menu system unless it's requested specifically, because that's just extra boring work. But it is part of game development, so we're going to focus bird's eye view camera, blowing up the snake, and wall collisions. Probably switch those two to there. Let's get it going. Oh yeah, and if you're just seeing this and tuning in at video 3, video 1, I'll link it down below. Just kidding. In the description. Alright. Okay, first let's just hit play and see what we're working with. I changed this so it's now a play in editor window, a pie session. So last time we left off, we have our little turning and our snake thingying. Alright, that's cool, whatever. So we're going to do bird's eye view camera mode first, I think. So in our snake blueprint class, oh look at this, I had already actually done that ahead of time this time. Wow, crazy. It's almost like I planned ahead for this one because I'm tired. And when you're tired, you tend to make more mistakes. So here's my plan of counteracting that. All right. So what do we need to do? We want to move our camera up and above the map, and it's attached to a spring arm. This does not work like it does in Unity. Some of you who have experience with Unity spring arms probably know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so let's just take a snake object, drop it in here, and we're going to use this as a guide. See how we have this camera? If we drag this dude up, and we're going to rotate it like that maybe or so, and just drag this up until we get a good approximation of what we want our view to be for our map. This is a pretty ghetto way to do this, but if it works, it works. So yeah, zoom it up, just drag these arrows. Also, W brings that arrow up, E is for rotation, which is annoying, and R is for scale, which they really could have switched those in my opinion, because R for rotation makes sense to me in my snack brain, my ooga booga brain. And so here are our values we're going to work with. I actually wrote some down that I liked, and the ones I wrote down, also you guys should use a notebook, it comes in handy. So that doesn't look right, hold up, it's really saying X is 770. I don't believe that. Let's see what happens. Huh. Ah, that's fine. Y is 1750. My guess is it's because we changed this row to 3020, and the rotation instead of being -60 is -70. Yeah, so that kind of puts the level in our view. And these will be our XYZ values. And yeah, so from there we'll use those. I'm going to pause it because the dog's barking. Okay, so we're going to use these values in our camera and position thingies. So you can either write them down or just remember that there's a box floating up there. So in our snake body, what is this? Why are we zoomed in on? Oh, wrong blocks. In our snack, we need to do some things. Oh wow, I left them there. That's convenient. I'll delete these real quick. So we want to be able to move our camera up. So we're going to create a custom event. We're going to call this bird's eye view. Can you guys see that? And I like to do comments like raise the camera up above the level and look at snack. And look at snack. So that not only do we know what we're trying to achieve, if we come back to it, we can be like, oh, we know what this is doing, or trying to do. So to do that, we can move. Oh yeah, this is an important part. So right now, if you click on this cube, you see that spring arm is not underneath it, so it is not parented to that. So if you take your spring arm and drag it to the cube, it'll say drop here to attach. We want to attach it. So now if you do that, you can tell it's a hierarchy. It's inside of the cube. So that means when the cube moves, the spring arm should move with the cube. I don't trust it, but it should. Okay. So additionally, the camera, because it's parented or childed, whatever, to the spring arm, it should move when the fucking pardon my French, when the spring arm moves. Also don't trust it, because I've noticed that the spring arm in Unreal doesn't really act like a spring arm at all. It's like, if I move this, the camera should move. Like, why? Oh. It's messing with me now. You see that? Now it is moving with it. Okay. Okay. What if we rotate it? That's what I thought. That's what it was. It doesn't rotate. Okay. Whew. Whew. I was about to lose my mind, guys. Okay. It's the rotation that doesn't work. That's why I feel like spring arm is busted. Okay. Whew. So what we want to do is move the spring arm up and rotate the camera. That's the other thing. So that rotation on this whole block was negative 70 degrees. That's for the whole thing. We're going to have to modify that, I think, because our camera comes in with a built-in rotation, if that makes sense, of negative 10. So we'll probably do negative 60 or something like that. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see when we get there. So first things first, we get our spring arm and we want to move it. I'm already rambling for minute longer than I need to. Let's set relative location, or should we set world location? Let's detach. Let's detach from the cube. So first things first, detach from components. So we're no longer, like, if the cube moves, the spring arm doesn't move. That's not what we want. We don't want, if we zoom up above and the cube's moving, we don't want our camera to move. So we need to detach component from component. Let's keep world. So this is important for you guys, knowing the difference between world space and relative space. We'll go real quick over this. Excuse me. So if we look at our camera, this location rotation, you click on it, it says relative, so it's relative to the parent. So if we move this over, it's moving 99 units over from this parent cube, which is not technically moving 99 units in world space. If we do world, then at 12, it's starting at 0, 0. Does that make sense? Instead of taking the spring arm location offset of whatever it is, 400. Also, in the map, you need an even bigger and more important thing is when you're in world space, you're like inside of this map is a space in the world. You could be like, this is like say 300 units X and 500 units Y. That's in world space. But if you were to offset something relative to this sphere, like this is probably, I don't know, we'll just say 100 units in X relative to this sphere, but that means it's 400 units in X in world space over to the right. So that's just something to keep track of in your brain, that there's a difference between relative space and world space and local space, but we're not going to do that. Similar, relative space is kind of like local space. Okay, more rambling. Waking up. We got our spring arm, we're detaching it. Let's move it. How do we want to do that? We want to set location. So we're no longer setting relative location. Let's set world location. Ooh, you can set world location and rotation, but we don't rotate the spring arm. Double click these cables if you want to drag them down here like this. Alternatively, you could just grab another one and plug it in. It's up to you. We're in video 3. Our new location, those values we got from this cube up here, floating in space roughly. I wrote them down. You might be able to copy them. Let's see. Probably not, though. They don't like making things easy for... Oh. Did it work? No. It tries copying it into one slot instead of the whole thing. So it's 770 for this, 1750, and 3020. Alright, and now we want an input to make that happen. I'm just going to make it 0 on the keyboard events. This is kind of a lazy way to do it, but you press 0 and you say, alright, call bird's eye view. So when we press 0, it'll hit this, which will call this, which will detach our spring arm and set world location. Let's test it really quick. Bonk, press 0, and now we're up here. There's our cube that's just floating up there. That's kind of funny. Let's delete this cube. Play, press 0. Alright, we're in the air. Cool, now we need to rotate the camera. So get our camera. We want to set rotation. We could do relative. I kind of want to do relative because it'll be relative to our spring arm. I don't think it's going to matter too much if we do world rotation, but I'm going to do relative. And what was it? -70? 0, 0. Is it on the Y or the X? It's on the Y. My bad. Okay, so on the Y-axis, -70. Which makes sense, because if you use your fingers, Z being up, so if you rotate on the Y, Z, it's left and right, Y. Anyways. Okay. Hit play. Press 0. There we go. And that's our view. I don't really like this. We got too much space up front, up top, but that's good enough for us for right now. We're not making like a perfect game. I kind of like it having tilt versus straight on because then it looks 2D. Just gives it some depth. And that's the start of that. But now we need to be able to get back to our normal view. So how do we do that? Well, in order to get back to our normal view, we need to know what our normal view was in the first place, which are these values here in our camera and spring arm. So we have all that jazz. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some variables to store those values so that we can look them up later once we've moved the camera and we're like, hey, where would we used to be? Let's move back to that. Cool. And then you can just move between the two. So let's store them. So let's create a new variable by hitting the plus sign. We're going to go bonk and call this previous, or just prev cam position. You could also call it start cam position. It's a vector. We're going to go previous cam rotation, which is a rotator. I actually found out that rotators don't really pass well as parameters through events if they're RPC, like remote procedure calls, like networking through multiplayer. Sometimes you'll pass it thinking it's XYZ, but it will change it to YZX, and you'll be sitting there wondering, like, why are the numbers changing? I wrote them down in stone with a laser engraver. Anyway, yeah, that's a thing. So be aware. Sometimes you have to split the rotator into roll, pitch, and yaw, and that's what a rotator is. Yay! XYZ. You can recombine. Okay, where are we at? We are going to move our camera, or store. We need to store it. So set instead of getting. These are getters as we're getting a value from it. These are setters. I don't know if anyone explained that to you ever. So to set it, we're going to be like, okay, our camera, get relative location. Yeah, let's do that. It might be world location, actually. No, because if it's world location, the snake moves, and that means that that world location will change. We just need to know relative to the cube. Okay. Again, a little tired, but chugging along. So we get that. Do the same thing here with the camera. get relative rotation and set that donkey. Bonk, bonk, my swamp. Okay. Been listening to a lot of swamp rock lately. And one more we need is the spring arm. What are we doing in spring arm? We're not rotating it, we're moving it, so we need its location. So get relative location. And we're going to promote that to a variable. We can actually just go like that, drag it off, promote to variable. It's the same as creating a new one. Call it previous spring arm location. Look at this. Just a bunch of game developers. What? Okay, we set these, got them good. Now we need to do something with them. When we press 0, we want to go into bird's eye view, but if we're in bird's eye view, we want to go back to our default view. So there's a nifty thing in Unreal Engine called flip-flop, which alternates between A and B, starting with A. So it's, which can cause problems if whatever you did in A doesn't work or B doesn't work, and then you're just switching back and forth, so be careful. But for this, it's perfectly good. Okay, so press it, do A. Last time it does A, it'll do B on the next. What do we want to do? Let's leave a comment so that I can think and do it and talk at the same time. We want to reset the camera and spriggan arm to original positions. Boom. Shakalaka. The Ali G show. Alright, that's for the 90s kids. Okay. 0, flip-flop, bird's eye view. We want to reset the camera. That's actually Control X that, Control C that, Control V that. And this should be switch camera views. And we're going to get our previous camera position, get our previous camera rotation, and get our previous spring arm location. Let's do the spring arm first, since that's what we did here. And we want to set relative location, spring arm. So this annoys me. I already dragged it out from spring arm. It's going to create another spring arm. No, that's correct. Never mind. Just kidding. That's all good. But we need to attach. So because it's a relative location, and we detached here, we actually have to attach it first and then set relative. Because if it's not attached and you're setting relative, it's like relative to what? Nothing. Maybe the snake object, but we need to attach it to the cube. So off of our spring arm, let's go attach component to a component, because they're both components. Let's make some room. Okay. Drag that into B. The parent is the cube. We'll just keep relative for now. It doesn't matter because we're moving it. And then we're going to set relative location of our spring arm. This will move it back down to our cube. And then we're going to set the relative location of our camera. And that, we got our position already. And then our previous cam rotation, also from our camera. If you want, you can drag this here and say set relative rotation. Da 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 da. Boom boom. Clap. Oh yeah, so there's a trick. It's kind of cool. If you select these and press Shift W, it'll align them vertically. You can press Shift the other ones. I'm not gonna do it because it'll mess it up. But yeah, that's a trick. I try to pass that trick on in every video I can think of it. If you're selecting these ones, you can press Shift A or D like this, Shift A or Shift D, left or right. Anyway, so now we've got that. So it looks good to me. Does it? We do this, we go into bird's eye view. If we're in bird's eye view, we'll come here. Let's test it. Press 0. Oh wow, we're in bird's eye view. You can move around. Looks like a game. Press 0 and we're back. Press 0 again. It works on back and forth. Look at that. Snake. Snack. Snack 3D. Snacked. Alright. I'm going to pause the video. We're going to get to the next part, which will be something about camera lag. No, I actually scratched that part. Originally, I was making it so the camera, we could have the option of following the snake around when you turn. But that just like felt weird. But there's some cool tricks I'll show you real quick. In your spring arm, you can do things like uncheck, use palm control rotation. Boom. I'll just show you this in case you want to do this. So now when you turn, just remember that your controls are relative to world space, not relative to the pawn. So hitting left here doesn't turn left, you have to hit down. But a neat thing that I like is enable camera leg, or camera rotation leg. Don't enable the leg behind the camera, that makes you want to throw up. So when you turn, ooh yeah, smooth. That's if you wanted to make a 3D third person. We're not doing that because reasons. You can, if you want, do it right now. You're a snake master, almost. So that's it for this clip, not the whole video. I'm just gonna pause it because I've been talking for 18 minutes. Holy shit. All right, bye. I just remembered we had something that actually I deleted off screen when I was messing around with off camera, and so you'll run into an issue because this whole part for you has some other code that we had made, so I have to like rebuild that to fix that. So what we were doing originally, I have a picture of it thankfully. Previous spring arm position, I have it written as location, that's fine. So I think what we were doing before is we were getting our spring arm location and we were just adding 100 to it when we pick up eat a snack, when we ate snack. And that will actually break our code when we switch between, but it's okay because we can fix it and I'll show you how. I think I'm just trying to, I think we did this and then we went set relative position, location, spring arm, bum 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 bum. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so I think this is what we had before when you would have right now basically, and you'd run into a problem like, hey, if I pick something up it teleports me here, and it's like, oh, that's broken, and it is broken. You know why it's doing that? I don't. I'm just kidding. So we're setting this previous location, we're adding 100 to it. When we hit 0, we detach. Ooh. And we're setting world location to this, right? Up in the air. So now, because we're detached, and we eat this thing, we're moving it to here, which is very strange because it's our starting, where is it? You see it right here, starting previous arm location. Yeah. Interesting. So we have to correct for that, and the way to do that is, sorry, I was just thinking and getting sidetracked. I'm like, create a new variable, we'll create a boolean, we'll do a boolean check. whenever I do a boolean, I like to do a lowercase b in front. I saw that in some code somewhere, and I'm like, that's weird but smart. And then turns out it helps when searching variables. If you're like, hey, I need to find it, it was a boolean, you just lowercase b, and boom, they all pop up. B bird's eye view. I'm gonna say in bird's eye view. Make that a boolean, which is just a true or false. Here we'll set that to true, and here we'll set it to false. And we're going to use that little boolean flag thing to be like, hey, right here, I'm going to make some space. Oh, not the whole thing. Not the whole thing. Come on, I just want these and not that. Sure. Okay, so we got this. We want to say we only want to do this if we're not in bird's eye view. So let's get our bird's eye view variable. We're going to branch. If we're in bird's eye view, we're not going to set the relative location. We don't need to worry about it. But if we are not in bird's eye view, meaning we're behind our thingy, we go through here, we get our previous location, whatever, and we set it, and that'll raise our camera up anytime we eat one, because our snake's getting longer, and we're doing a kind of ghetto camera movement. Eventually you'd want to make this better so that it, like, in case the snake gets really long. But here, let's test that. Hopefully it's correct. So we're going, if you go 0, grab something, you press 0, we're back here, 0. Now ideally, we would update our controls to be like, okay, we're in this mode. If you press forward, or right, you would go right from relative, like turn right, not go right from world space. That's another thing. So up is left technically here. Up is up in world space, but not up in relative space, if that makes sense. So it makes things confusing. So look at that. We got our snake. Our snake is like a little tapeworm guy. A little hungry caterpillar. That's something you could do. You could make Snake, but make it be a caterpillar game, and he's like going around the leaves, just eating leaves, just trying to get big and juicy. Maybe like level up and like put some spikes on its back as an evolutionary trait or something, or get bigger pinchers to eat more leaves faster. Now I got a game idea. Heard it here first, folks. Butterflies versus moths. Oh man. Alright, cool. Let's go. Boom. And then if you hit yourself, you blow up. So that's that part. Many words were said, only a few things were done, but we got it done. And let's the little notes. Could end game on hitting wall. We could do an end game screen. I don't think that matters, but let's blow up the snake because that's fun, and I think everybody has earned a little bit of fun having watched this far. Yes, let's do that. Fuck the other stuff. Pardon my French. Fuck the other stuff. It's important, but it's a tutorial. Like, are we all gonna package snack? That can be another video or another video series. All right, blow snake up. This is what we want to do, and it's a custom event. Imagine that. You're like, why don't we use functions? Listen to me and listen closely. We only need functions if they return something. Functions can be nice for organizing your code, but they can also be a headache if you're trying to debug a large project, and every time you go into a function, you have to go into another window, and then out of that window, and then into another window where you can't see anything but what's going on there, and out. And it's like, okay, you're 2D brain map has now gained a dungeon level, if you think of it that way. That's a good way to think of it. Flat code, 2D top-down dungeon map of what everything is, and when you click on things, it just jumps over here. Functions in Unreal Engine, which are good and great when you're using correctly, but make your brain a little harder to follow, trust me when I say that, is like adding a second depth layer underground for your cave system, and it can get confusing. Not saying don't use them, because you should, you really should, especially for repetitive stuff that need, and always if you need something that returns a value that you need to use a function. But that's just my advice, having worked on bigger projects that can, where the debug process gets bogged down. Why? All right, moving right along. So yeah, anytime anyone says something that's like an absolute, always hold it in suspicion. Where are we at? Blow snack up. Yeah, blow up snack. All caps. These are all caps event. Don't do that, but we're making an exception. We're breaking rules. Blow up snack. What do we want to do? We want to get all the snake bodies. We want to get our cube, which is the snake head. We want to loop through all of them, apply enable gravity and simulate physics to true, and then we want to apply a big force. And in order for that force to work, we have to be simulating physics. We don't have to enable gravity, but it helps. But simulating physics, there might be one other thing, I don't know. But that's what good enough start. So we know that we got an array, so it means we're going to loop through each one. And what we'll do, let's get our cube. Let's say set simulate physics to true. Excuse me. Copy and paste this guy. Plug this into here. That gets the cube from those guys, from our snake buddy. To test this, instead of having to like try to run into ourselves, let's create, let's press, what's a good number for blowing things up? 9, 6, 3, 3, 6, 9. Let's push P. Pushing P. We're pushing P. But to do that, let's press 6. 3. There we go. I'm just trying to get this guy. NOS debug key 3. God damn. Okay, go up here. Copy our 0. Come down here. Paste it. Hit this button. Press P. Or should it be B? For Brian. For blowing things up. I'm gonna push P. Pushing P. Okay. Pressed, say blow up snack. I like to put these around here so you know where they're at. This was a note, handle wall collisions. You can just create a new collision actor with a thing around it, but who cares? We should finish. No, we shouldn't. Alright, we're simulating physics. Let's just test that that works, see what happens. First of all, let's get some... What the hell was that? Oh. Make sure you uncheck this because we don't want... And this is use pawn control rotation. Because that's kind of a headache, in my opinion. It's better when you turn on the camera leg. Let's press 0. You probably want to make this the default view and have the other view an option. So if I push P, yeah, see how it just fell down? Now it can't move. So if we're here, grab a thing, push P, we fall. Cool. So now we go through all that. We want to apply a force. I think it's an impulse force. Type in force, add force. How do we want to do this? Do we want to go through and add a force to each cube, or do we want to do one force in the middle of the snake that blows radially outwards? I don't think so, because that's too, snakes too could be too long. So let's do it for each body part. Force. Here's what we'll do. I want some randomness in this. Random vector, random unit vector, which will give us values between 0 and 1. I don't like that, because we might end up going down, like, you know what I mean? Except it's not negative. Let's multiply it. First, let's make literal float. So this will be like our force. This will be our direction. So we're getting a random direction multiplied by our force. Let's say 3,000. So that'll be 3,000. And that could be enough, but I almost always want to have some sort of bias towards up. So if we add, here's what we'll do. We'll add to our unit vector we'll add a vector to our unit vector. To bias going up, we'll do this 0.3, clamp it. Max of 1. This is so much more than we need to do, but it's good practice to be thinking about this stuff. So we're getting a random direction. We're adding 0.3 on the z value, so even if it's like straight across, we're going to add 0.3 no matter which. So if it's here, it's like 0.9, it'll be 1.2, which we're clamping to 1, it'll just be straight up. If it's at 0.45, it'll become 0.75. So we're just favoring the explosion going upwards always. So we always have an upward lift. The 3,000 is the value that we're multiplying this unit vector by. So this is direction, this is force. Plug that in there. Or direction, and this is our scalar. That, you know what I mean? Like how long the vector will be. And this is our force. Okay. I like that. We still gotta add it to our cube. We'll do that on completion. Or we could just let the head fall off. Let's just let the head fall. Let's let the head fall off first, because our camera's attached to it, and if we blow up the head, we'll go spinning around, and that's no fun. All right, let's go 0 forward, and let's get like a few lengths. Okay, and what was it, P? Oh no, it didn't work very good. Let's click Excel change. Change this to 10,000. We set simulate physics to true, press 0. So yeah, if you want this view to work, you're probably gonna have to move the camera better, and that's not very good. They fell apart. It's weird. Is it because the unit vector is so small? Let's add some zeros. This'll work. You're in chemistry class and you're like doing little reactions, and you're like sneakily 3 timesing the amount you should be doing because you're at the fun table. Yeah, it's like that. Uh-oh, what do we got? Access snake body is not valid. Oh, you know why? Because we press... Because we pressed this button, once those actors started to overlap, they start destroying themselves. Huh. Is my guess. That's my guess. That doesn't make sense. Anyway, what we're supposed to do is put blow up snake here. So activating it via P is going to cause some problems because we're going to have objects that are destroyed. So whenever you're accessing invalid objects, you'll get errors. In a lot of code, it'll just crash, and you'll be like, why? It's because it doesn't exist. Let's double check. Can we see? No. So I just do an is valid check on the cube. It's not necessary, but we don't like errors, and this is probably a little extreme. We can probably get rid of one of those zeros. Compile, hit play, press 0. Alright, so I'm going to run into myself. And it deletes the cube because the camera is attached. So now we need a function or event to not screw up the camera. We want to go to bird eye view. Sweet, that makes our life easy. So let's go bird eye view, and then we don't even destroy it. We can't destroy this actor because this actor has our camera in it, so we don't need to destroy actor anymore. That's okay. That's only if you want to respawn. Don't worry about that. 0. I'm gonna make that so that's like the default view. You could also make it so the snake goes up and down the terrain. You could raycast below and each get the normal of the hit surface to set ours. Alright, I'm gonna blow us up. Boom. Cool. And that is basically most of what we wanted to do. It's like not a full game because it doesn't have menus or like the whole gameplay loop of like want to play again and all that, but it's like you can do that on your own. I don't want to make a whole tutorial on doing menu systems unless it gets requested of like, oh, we want Snake Part 4, do the menu system, and then maybe we can even package it, because packaging a game into a like executable object is it's its own thing. You can get like into a project way deep, like someone over there did, and be like, oh, it doesn't package, and then you start to panic, and then you're like freaking out trying to make it package for like a week or something, and then you're like, oh god, do I have to go back and like rebuild everything? And then you do, and then you maybe later on kind of figure out some ways to solve the issues you ran into and what was causing those things. But that's a pro tip. Be careful when packaging your project. Don't wait too long to do that, so that you're not like super deep into it and then run into weird things and realize you have to like fix a bunch of stuff. Okay. Snack 3D. Hope that was mildly entertaining. Hope you learned a couple of tricks, some tips. I would not even say that this is like, I would not say this is a beginner project. It's beginner in scope and size for sure. Like it's small, but like some of these tricks and things we did are clever, kind of advanced concepts for sure. So hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't. Trying to get to that 1,000 and then above.